and welcome to the Confident Healer podcast, YouTube version. I'm your hostess, Sharmila Mali. I'm also the creator of my 9-month Confident Healer Reiki training program. I hope you enjoy today's episode, and please, as always, like and subscribe. Thanks so much for watching. Hello, and welcome to the Confident Healer podcast. I'm your hostess, Sharmila Mali, the creator of the 9-month training program, the Confident Healer Reiki training. Thank you so much for joining us today. So today we have a wonderful guest. She is a bright and shiny soul. She was born a gifted clairvoyant. She's an energy healer and medium and uses her psychic abilities to guide hundreds of people to experience deep healing and assist others in developing their own intuitive abilities. You can listen to her podcast called Soul Healer on Spotify. So please welcome to the Confident Healer podcast with a big warm hug, Ishita Bhama.
Yay! Thank you so much for having me, Sharmila. I'm so excited to be here.
Me too. So wonderful to meet you.
Yes, it's so good. And I'm really excited because I think that there's a lot of wonderful things that you hold space for on your podcast. So I'm just so delighted to be a part of it.
Thank you. And speaking of podcasts, so tell me how you got started doing it. What was your inspiration?
So on my podcast, I was just trying to give people a space for spiritual knowledge and deep healing.
Mm-hmm.
And whether it's an interview with another healer or whether I'm talking about a topic like manifestation or getting unstuck or creativity or spirit babies, it feels like having a platform to speak about it so that people can hear something that resonates on a certain level with them, that opens up healing, is what Soul Healer was meant to do. So I found the inspiration because there was a lot of other healers that I'm around who have podcasts, but like the universe works in very, very magical ways. And so sometimes we're not always ready for what we need to do. But these other healers around me said, hey, Ishita, get yourself a podcast. Get started. And I was like, well, I don't know the first thing about podcasts, but I gave it a shot and it was really, really exciting, really fun. And it was healing. That was the purpose of it. So I just love it. I'm really excited to be able to give that to people.
Nice. And what is healing about it for you?
So I think that when we speak to spiritual topics, speak to the fact that we are all spiritual beings in a body, it's like we get another part of ourselves validated. We get another awareness of ourselves that feels seen and awakened, and that gives us power and reminds us that we are the creators of our own universe, that we don't have to stay in a space where we feel stuck. So even me being able to have a platform to talk about it helps me remember these things, but also if I'm healing and you're healing, we're amplifying the healing and rippling it out together. So It's just making the world better.
Yes, exactly. I mean, I feel exactly the same way. And that's what I feel when I do these podcasts, and especially when I talk to other healers such as yourself, and I learn so much, and it's just such a beautiful exchange of information and knowledge and energy, and being able to talk about it openly.
Yes.
It's so healing. So yeah,
we need space for us to heal too, right?
Yes.
So yeah.
Exactly. So when did you know you were clairvoyant? Because that's pretty cool.
It's really special, and but I also don't know any different. So I'm grateful for it. I think I had a sense of it when I was really young. The only thing was that I thought the experiences I was having was just my imagination. I was wildly imaginative, and I was kind of hard on myself, truth be told, about the things that I felt like I was imagining. And I thought, I just should stop imagining it. It's silly. This is silly. And I think I was my biggest critic
Mm.
growing up, experiencing that. But oftentimes, like I do now, I see colors around people's bodies, I see entities, I see energies. Um, Oftentimes growing up, I would be extremely sensitive, or there would be a flash, or sort of like a picture in my head, and I would just kind of blurt out something, and somehow I would know it, but it was not something that any of the adults in my family had told me about.
Mm.
Um, and I just again thought I was a really sensitive kid. I just thought I had a wild imagination. I had no brothers and sisters, so no one knew any different. So yeah.
Well, no, I just, because I've talked to so many people, and people that, wouldn't call themselves a healer, but they were just like, yeah, I've always had this gift since I was a kid. And for you to declare that is such a big, I think it's a big differentiator between you and them, because I think it took them a while to acknowledge that. So like, how long, when did you know what clairvoyant was? Like, when did you figure out, like, oh, that's what that is? Do you?
Yeah, well, I was really interested in spiritual studies and the metaphysical as a child, even. I would sit down and read books on spirituality, go to Barnes and Noble and do that. And I would love to go visit places of spiritual worship, but um, I never really got the opportunity to explore it deeply until um, rather, I was doing it, but I took it to the next level of exploration when I was my freshman year of college. I got all this opportunity to, be free and explore
Mm.
what I wanted and learn what I wanted to do. And so um, things got really, really, really heightened. And when I experienced, like, basically this explosion of healing energy coming out of my hands, like seeing things like to the next level, it was really, really kind of scary and overwhelming
Mhm.
for a second. So I literally just Googled psychic school, and I found one that resonated, and I trained there, and it was the Clairvoyant Center. So it was for clairvoyance. And so that was a space where I could cultivate that a little bit more. And then I realized, well, this is a thing that I've been doing my whole life.
Mhm.
And there's a reason why this stuff is coming very naturally, sitting here and learning these tools and techniques. So I think I put it together when I was actually in it and training, but
Nice.
for
Okay.
that, yeah, it was like a kind of like hindsight is 2020 sort of.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Right. No, it's just fascinating because, yeah, usually, there's no language for it, especially when you're a kid, unless someone in your family does that, and they tell you like, okay, well, they see what you're going through, and like, actually, come here, let me mentor you, right? So that's why, yeah, I think most people, I think most people have that same experience. So I just wanted to know. I was like, wow, when did you understand your abilities and how to call that? And the only person that comes to mind, what was his name? The medical intuitive. What's his name? Do you know what I'm talking about? He wrote the book. He wrote
Yes,
that
yes,
book,
yes. Oh, God.
and I forgot his name, but he talked about, having this, being a child, and having that ability. And or maybe I'm getting confused with, what's his name? Oh God, Tyler Henry. I think
Oh, yes, yes, yes.
maybe
I
I'm getting,
identify with his story too.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think I'm getting it confused with, is he the one that said, like, something, told, like, they were at dinner and they said, "Grandma, you have lung cancer." I think that was him. Or
I don't
maybe
remember that specific
it was,
moment, but it
yeah,
could be, yeah.
it was either that or the guy who wrote the medical intuitive. I think I don't. Anyway, so I'm just saying, like, so he knew that he was hearing things and telling that to people, and it would freak them out because it's like, what do you, like you're having dinner and like, oh, grandma, you have lung cancer, and she hadn't told anybody or something, or maybe she didn't know or something to that effect, and. So I just was wondering, like, oh, did you have instances like that when you were a kid where you would tell your parents or someone like, oh, there's this person is next to you, or I see this, did you have that experience, and what was your feedback from them?
Definitely. So on my podcast, I have a whole interview with my parents about what it's like to parent a psychic child, which is really fun. So
Wow, okay.
but they talk about a moment where um someone had passed away, and basically I had already known about it. I was experiencing, they don't go into great detail, but I basically had seen it, I felt it, and I it was like, I mean, I saw him pass away. Well, I saw him rather as the entity of him, his spirit. And so if you get the chance to listen to that episode, it'll talk a little bit more about that. But there were so many instances of um, how I knew things, and even in my dreams as a kid, like I would deeply, deeply sleep and have vivid dreams even to this day. And I would wake up like saying things and explaining things that didn't make any sense to my parents, but then later on, like they were like, "Oh, okay." So there were tons of incidences like that, but I didn't necessarily, I couldn't put it together in the moment, but it was kind of spectacular to look back now and be like, "Oh, well, you were just kind of communicating with spirit." But I think that everyone can do this, you
Right.
know.
Right.
Like we're all healers. Like our hairdressers are healers. They
Right.
literally are, healing us. Our masseuses are healers. Like there's so many, I think a lot of healers are just coming out of the closet, and that's kind of what our world needs right now too.
Yeah, yeah. And that's wonderful that they're so support, because that was my next question. As a South Asian woman, and I think you said you're an immigrant as well, like you were
Mhm.
born in India, and for them to be so supportive, that's incredible. So like, so what I mean, yeah, definitely everyone go listen to that episode and go check that. That's awesome that you interviewed them. So when I don't even know where to begin. So did they understand that you had abilities when you were little? Like, and what did
So
they do?
they thought that something was up with me, but they didn't really know exactly what was going on. I mean, I was the only child, and so they were just kind of feeding into what I liked. So I would like to go to, check out like this energy of the church. Well, I didn't know I was checking out the energy of the church. I wanted to just go into the church, or there was like like a pretty temple that I wanted to go into, or my dad and I would just sit and literally talk about philosophy. And it was really interesting to me. I wanted to like so I grew up in a Hindu family, so I wanted to do the fasts, I wanted to do the like celebrations, like, but I wanted to know why we were doing it, for like what spiritual reasons. Um and I told them, "Oh, I always wanted, like, I want to be a priestess when I'm older.
Wow.
I want to be able to," and I have gone through like ministry training. So if anyone wants to get married, let me know. Or last rites, let me know. But I that was those were things that I was like, oh, that's really fun and really cool and amazing. I always thought astrology was really cool. So they fed into my interests, but it wasn't until, I mean, I had a spiritual mentor in high school as well, who I worked one on one with.
Wow.
Um, this happened because my father, who is actually very much into spirituality as well, um, and he took classes, but there would be these
Wow.
gala events that the institution, the spiritual center that he went to, had. And as a child, like an 8-year-old, 7-year-old, I would want to go meet all the psychics. I would want to go get all the readings. I would sit there, and all these, like, older people in their 40s, 50s were sitting there with me. And so, but I was fascinated. And so they were like, she's a little quirky, but it's fine. We'll, um, we'll deal with it. And as I worked with a spiritual mentor, and then I went to psychic school, they basically were like, yeah, that all makes sense. So that's what it is. We just didn't know what it was. And I've had, like, in our family, there's a lot of intuition, but no one's kind of delved deep into it. But I do believe that there's somewhere in the bloodline some connection to it. So
Wow. That's amazing that your father was, into spirituality and going to different events, and you kind of grew up in that. That's really amazing. Yeah. You don't, that's not a story you often hear about. At least I haven't heard. I'm meeting a lot of people where it's just like they shut it down. It was a lot of people, it's very overwhelming because you're like, oh, nobody else can see this. Like, ah.
right.
And then later on they revisit it and open back up to it because they've been, ignoring it for so long. So as you teach intuition as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's one of my favorite things to teach, because I think that, like we were talking about in the beginning of this episode, like, when we get connected to our intuition, we open up a door of self-awareness that gives us the ability to take charge of our own life that we didn't know we had. I mean, we've had intuition for lifetimes in many bodies, and
Mhm.
it's never gone away. It's supposed to stay there. So if we're not living life through our intuition, why like why would we be why do we want to do that? Why do we want to live life not through our intuition? I was just in Seattle, and it makes me think about, like, the salmon who come through, like, the
Right.
the water, like Alaska and Seattle and all that. They have a so they need to spawn. They are,
Right.
like, made to spawn where they were born.
Right.
And
Yeah, it's amazing, right?
right,
They
right. And
come back.
exactly, they have a magnet in their nose, essentially, to bring them back there. But could you imagine, like, if, like, all these thousands and millions of salmon were like, oh, but I don't think I should turn that way, because it doesn't it I'm just gonna overthink it right now.
Right, right,
I don't think that, like, I should turn this way, even
right,
though my nose is telling me to go this
right.
way. Like, that's what we're doing when we're, like, questioning our intuition. Like, we wouldn't have salmon, you guys. So
That's a great, I love that analogy. I love that. Yeah, that's so true. Yeah, actually, funny story. When I was in college, I worked in a salmon processing plant in Alaska. And that's why I learned all about salmon. I was like, yeah, and when the salmon came back to that part of the state to spawn, we would all go and just there'd be dead salmon everywhere. And I was like, oh my God, so but you can't eat, I was like, you can't
right,
eat that. It just has to rot and go back into the environment, be part of the
right.
food chain. But I was just like, oh my God, this is like really good salmon. People pay a premium for this, and they're just dead all over the
That's hilarious.
everywhere.
That's,
But
very funny. I love the synchronicities, but
yes,
fun that you got that opportunity to do that. I love
right. Yeah, and learn about. I was like, yeah, so I know exactly what you're talking about, and so I'm just so where. I mean, I think I probably know this because from what you just told me, but so where did you ever not feel confident about your abilities? I guess maybe that's the question.
100%. So I think I had those moments too where, like, it would get a little overwhelming, then I would shut it down, and it would come back again, and I would shut it down. So I didn't know what was going on. Like, I just, again, like, thought I was really in touch with, like, I just wanted to, like, be I just found this transcendental experience that spirituality gave me, whether it was like me being like actually knowing that it was me tuning into my gifts, or just, having a spiritual experience. So I didn't know the difference and effective about things. I Not that I didn't do well, because I strived to learn the Muggle way, but when
Right.
I the
Yeah, I know.
um nothing wrong with people who identify as Muggles, but the truth is we're all magical beings. So spoiler alert. But
Right.
um I would start off, I would notice in school, like I would just know the answer and I would put it down, but then teachers would be like, well, I don't understand how you got here and you have to show your work. And I genuinely was having a hard time knowing how to like do the big steps to get all the way over there when I already knew the answer. So then I had to like learn that way, and a lot of the intuition that I had was invalidated.
Mm.
So it was only until I went back to training to unlock all of those layers again that I was like, okay, well, I'm actually reading now and I'm actually doing this, and that's what's happening. So
Mm. So did you finish so you went to this um you went through a training, a psychic training, and psychic and healing training. So did you finish college, or and what's your degree in
yeah,
college?
so I mean, I went to college, and I also got my master's after that too,
Wow.
because I thought so. It's interesting because I was doing psychic training, I was there for a long, long, long time. Yeah, I trained people there as well. And so I was doing things alongside each other because I didn't think that this was going to be, I was living in the Midwest at the time, and I love the Midwest, but I also find that there wasn't space for this type of work there. And
Mm-hmm.
so I thought, okay, well, I'm here. I need to do the things that will get me money.
Right.
So this was a hush hush part-time thing. People would
Wow.
call me on the phone through word of mouth. They would not know who I was. They didn't know my face. I would just give them a reading, and part-time while I was doing the work that I was doing. So I got my bachelor's degree in theater.
Oh,
So I
awesome.
was an actor, and I did that for a little bit, and then I got my master's in elementary education. And I taught for years too, while I was still being uh, doing this secret thing. But at one point, it got like the universe does, much like the podcast. I got a lot of push from the clients who are now kind of piling up and saying, hey, what, I would love to see your face. Why are you not on social media? Why are you not doing this? Why are you not doing that? You should just try it. I said, I don't even know the first thing about doing this, but I was like, okay, well, let's just try it. So, and here I am doing it full time, which is beautiful.
Wow. That's amazing. Yeah. Wow. Well,
Thank you.
bravo. Brava. Yeah, that's so fascinating, that because I just figured, oh, maybe you probably finished college and then just started, just started working as doing healing work, and but no, you were elementary school teacher, I guess,
Yes,
like
I
teaching,
was. Yeah.
and all the while have doing moonlighting on the side as a
I will say, like, there was like when I was teaching elementary school, it was it was really nice to be able to have the perspective of like someone who's intuitive, to be able to um I mean, I had their information and their birth, or not necessarily their birth charts, but what I would do is like I would break it down by birthday, and like I would, look at their zodiac signs, and I would learn also their love languages and see what's like, what they're vibrating at. So that's how I worked through some energy stuff
hmm
in the classroom, and
hmm
that's what I think is sometimes missing from the
Yeah.
classroom. So,
There's a lot missing, and it shouldn't all be on the teachers, that's for sure.
right.
So wow, that's yeah. I'm just thinking, wow, if there were more teachers who have that ability, and they probably do use it in some way, or figuring it out, but if they don't, oh my god, if you're listening and you're a teacher working in the school system and you have these abilities, look at how you can help kids, even more so, like really being able to Yeah, I don't know how you can, I don't even want to, say uplift that any more than they're doing, but like to, kind of change their story a little bit by guiding them in a direction, where maybe people just don't understand, with so many kids showing up on the spectrum, and having, to teach in a different way, maybe being able to identify that. But anyway, so if you're listening, teachers, like, hey, there, and you feel like you have some sort of healing ability, like explore that and bring that into the classroom in your own, in your own way. So that's wow, that's like super, super fascinating. And then, so talking about just going back to confidence, so what do you think builds confidence as a healer?
Yeah, well, I think it's remembering that the first thing is that we have intuition for a reason. We all have it. It's meant to be inbuilt within us. So, an intuition comes in quickly, it comes in fast, like it's subtle if you don't catch it. But usually you're in an environment where there's no triggers, you're not really thinking about it, and then you'll get some sort of spark of inspiration, or you'll just get a message, whether it's feeling it, seeing it, knowing it, hearing it, smelling it, tasting it. Um, and that's what I believe we need to start to reprogram or retrain our brains to be able to remember, because we have been conditioned out of being able to trust it.
Mm-hmm.
And we've been conditioned to like follow this model in the box to be a part of society. And it feels really disconnected. And so when I think confidence happens when you are tapping into the subtlety of your intuition and choosing to take a moment to silence that voice or the logic that comes up directly after the message, so that you can start to practice and practice and practice, and literally the intuition is going to get louder than the logic voice
Mm-hmm.
after a while.
Right.
And then there's nothing else to trust. Then you can't live your life in any other way because your intuition is saying this, and there's no other way to go.
Mm. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I
I think
100%.
that
I no, I 100% agree. I was just like, well, that's it. That's all we have to talk about today.
no,
Yeah.
I mean, like there's tons of other things that I think, I mean, practice, of course, like
Right.
a dedication um to knowing that you have a deeper awareness about yourself. I think we all get to a point in our lives where we have this itch that is saying to us that we're not either living to our potential, or that something's off, or we're feeling stuck. And then we lean to these things that feel a little bit more esoteric or abstract. And truly, that's when we can get out of the way of like all the BS that
Mm.
we're being fed. And then we step into a space where that's where we're creating, that's where we're knowing, that's where we're seeing. So I think knowing that you have permission basically to step out of the bullshit too, is, excuse my language, is a chance to have more confidence with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's the acknowledge, yeah, just what you said, acknowledge, I'll just sum it up, acknowledging and doing it, using it and listen, but it's that acknowledging that can be really challenging if you're not, if you've been suppressing it for so long. Um, and just taking those little baby steps, I think, just, or however big, whatever big steps you need, just little step, baby, tiny, tiny, just like a millimeter, and then, or maybe taking a big leap. Some people just take a big leap. So I wanted to touch on something you said with talking about, how you felt anxious with your abilities because was it because it was always turned on and you're just always getting all this information? Is that
Yeah.
what?
So what was happening was like I had a lot of like my clairsentience turned on, which is like this ability to psychically feel. So I would, like a lot of people who identify as an empath, that's what that is. Basically, you're turning on this ability. You have the ability to feel literally everything all the time, and that can be overwhelming when you don't know what's yours and don't have boundaries. So, if a teacher was off that day, I would be feeling that, but I didn't know that was mine. Um, test anxiety was a big thing because it was almost like, and that's what I strived for so being a teacher, just going back to that really quickly, really helped heal my experience of school, because I got to change the way that it was done in the classroom. So that was really exciting. But I had a lot of test anxiety because I felt like I have to fit in the box and I have to see it only this way. And like I have all these other things that I'm seeing right now, but I just have to focus on the test. And so a little bit of that focus was like I felt like I had to take 130%, 145% of my like energy to just, focus in on that, because there was just so much stimulation. So, and I think I was processing, like healing a lot of other things from other people. I think naturally as healers, we just like want to suck in like other people's stuff. And when we heal it, when we think when we're the unhealed healer, we heal other people's stuff through us, and then everyone's fine, right? Okay, we're good. And so we can keep moving. That's the feeling. But then we learn like, okay, well, we don't have to go out of our way and suck all of it, and we can have our boundaries first. So I think that's what was happening for me instance.
Yes. I mean, I see that with a lot of people who would call themselves, very sensitive and hard to move around the world, because they don't know how to, they don't understand that it's a, that you can just have boundaries about it and do certain practice. But it just takes work to do that so that you can go out and about in public. And it's just a matter of acknowledging what's happening, and that it's not just you, that you're taking in information, you're taking in a lot of energy, and to be able to figure out a boundary for yourself, whether that be a visualization, something physical. Sometimes a crystal helps, using breath, or whatever technique comes up. And that's something that is so important as a healer, and something that's not taught really. Like, I mean, I took Reiki classes with but nobody talked about really boundary, and I had to learn that the hard way, the old hard way, and figured it out on my own. So it's great that they taught that in school. So to be able to not walk around like a sponge all day, and like, oh yes, I'm here in the world and I'm gonna take all this stuff, and then feel like shit, go home and just like hide behind the cover, close the curtains, and you feel depressed and you feel like shit, and you don't want to do anything. It's like, why am I here? Why do I even have these abilities? And that makes you shut down.
Yeah,
Right.
and I know that there's tons of people who are feeling that way, and then it leads to that, like literally it's the energy first and then the physical manifestation. So sometimes it could lead to like sicknesses
Right.
and diseases. Like the word literally dis-ease is you're not at ease.
Right.
So yeah, I definitely feel like there's a lot of people who need to remember that they have support too, to be able to learn those boundaries. I think that's the first step too, because sometimes we feel alone in this journey. And I think that fortunately the world is becoming more excited about spirituality, so that there's some options. If something resonates with you, then following that path to learn how you can use it to create boundaries is going to be the way to be able to have more of that strength. But I definitely feel like just knowing and giving yourself that permission to like even jump off the deep end is
Right.
a good one.
Yeah. I mean, I just find, when you were talking about that, while you were both in two schools, when you were in college and then going to training, getting training on how to be, just how to be in the world with your abilities and how to use it. And I'm not saying that you have to, go down the path that you and I went down. But if you have these abilities, to find out about it and to embrace them and use them in your work, or maybe follow, if that's where if you're being guided to, like, oh, I should be healing, I should do healing work and help other people, then yeah, please, we need more of you. So yeah, I just thought that was just an interesting point to touch on, because I talk about boundaries all the time, about not taking on other people's stuff. And especially when you're in this type of work, or any type of work where you're dealing with the public, face to face with people, teachers, working in a restaurant, just any public facing, we're just constantly around a lot of people. Like, I think a lot
Social
of people,
workers,
yeah, especially, yeah,
therapists, like they
yes,
need this stuff.
right,
Counselors, I mean, policemen, like
hmm,
they like they
right,
need we
right.
all need it. Yeah.
We had talked about this. I wanted to do a special little thing here and do a reading. And I was inspired because I was talking to one of my two very best girlfriends the other night, and they saw something, watching some YouTuber talk about an impending war on China, between China and the US. And so I wanted to do I had three questions. I wanted to do so I wrote down my answers, because I thought that would be easier for me, from the Akashic Records. I opened the records of Ancient Mother, and I thought, yeah, we'll do the reading and I'll let you start, because I already have the answers here, my answers, and we'll get two different answers to the same question. So explain, how you wanted to incorporate the meditation that you talked
So
about.
basically, okay, so my answer to the Ukraine one was basically that I mean, we can support in the ways that we want to, financially donating, all that's great and stuff, but truly what's happening on the earth is there's a vibrational shift and we're moving out of an agreement. So what we have to do is step into our best and highest vibration. And then I was going to do the little meditation and
Okay,
yeah.
there are three questions. So the
Sure.
question that I came up with is there something we can do to help the people of the Ukraine? So what is your answer to that?
Yes. So I tuned in a little bit and I will right now too. But so basically when I look at the energy of Ukraine, it's energy that's been it's a lot of like there's a lot of anger and a little bit of like that masculine energy of still maintaining control over that feminine. And so that we're shifting into a vibration where there is a space for the balance of masculine and feminine, because we've had going back in history, like there was the power of the feminine and there was the power of the masculine that overtook the feminine, and then now we're moving into a space where we can have both, but that creates tension. And so what it looks like is we have to agree to step into the vibration that the earth is holding, that the earth wants to hold. So that means that we get to help Ukraine by doing our own healing
Mm,
first,
mm,
stepping into a high vibrational healing of self acceptance, of deep awareness, and getting into our intuition. Groundedness, basically, being grounded in the world, because there will be a lot of shifting, super, super big shifting. March already has so many planetary shifts that are making us go like this. So I'm shaking
yeah.
and moving my hands if you can't see me, but basically, groundedness and stepping into a world where we can have more of our own acceptance of us and ourselves so that we can be that mirror to move into the higher agreement.
Wow. Yeah. I'm it was interesting because I forgot that. I was like, oh yeah, I forgot she's a clairvoyant. So, so when you started to look into the energy, I could is fascinating because I could feel that. I could feel it, and I could feel and I was just kind of breathing through it because I felt so many mixed emotions, and it just made me want to cry. Like I just felt so much sadness and grief and anger, and I just thought, oh God, yeah. I just, I mean, I can look on the news and see what's happening, and yeah, that's what's going on there. But to really tune into that energy just now through with what you were doing when you were tuning in, I just felt it in my heart, and I was like, okay, let's just ground this energy. Like you have to continue on with this episode and continue the interview to myself, like, but I could definitely feel that the energy that's happening in the, I mean, war is not a fun energy by any means, and but it's not anything that I wanted to tune into until right now. So
And we're, as a collective, we're slightly tuned into it all the time,
yeah.
which is really hard for our bodies. So we're not conscious of it. But again, that's the reason why our bodies are needing to, and our spirits needing to come back to a space of deep acceptance, love, and groundedness, because it's going to just ripple and mirror everywhere, and it's going to hold the vibration where we can get to a point where it moves it and it heals it, and we're literally holding peace, a vibration of peace. um if you've ever seen those, uh there's several videos like of like people in a group meditating,
Mm-hmm.
and like, because I can see energy, I can look at what's happening, and the massive shift that it starts to create is unreal. It's
Mm-hmm.
unreal. So if we start doing that like all over the world and we do it together, there's nothing that we can't move into, that creates peace and love and groundedness for ourselves.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful, beautiful.
How you do this, let me share, because we all need to do it together.
Okay.
So, or we can do it together. So I invite you to do it with me. So, go ahead and just wherever you're at, put your feet flat on the ground. See if you can have a chair where you have back support, and take a deep breath in and out. And go ahead and just notice that you are supported in this chair, in the moment that you're in. Nowhere to go, no problems to solve. This is you giving space to you. And you're going to go ahead and just bring your attention to this space right behind your eyes. And this is where your third chakra is, the seat of your clairvoyance is. There you go. Yep. It's interesting because those of you who are doing it might hear me say yes and because I see the energy not in present time, but rather it happening when it's happening. So thank you for joining us. So as you have your attention right behind your eyes, just go ahead and imagine right at the base of your tailbone that there is this point of light, which is actually your first chakra, which has to do with survival energy that you've held from this and any other lifetime. So just imagine that from this first chakra, that base of your tailbone area, you have a big tree trunk attached to it. It's growing into this first chakra, and it's actually opening up as wide as your hips. And this tree trunk goes down past the floor, down past the pipes and the water table and the dirt in the earth, down past the lava, and then there's just a little bit further it goes into this space called the center of the earth, and it's like a low hum. You might hear it if you're in tune with your clairaudience or your psychic ability to hear, but it's a place where energy is taken and recycled and given back to kind of where it came from. So you can send anything down here and just notice that this tree trunk has a flow, a downward flow, like water or wind, like a downward vacuum. And from your space, you're releasing anything that no longer serves you, that isn't yours, that doesn't fit your vibration anymore, that keeps you stuck, that keeps you in doubt or invalidated. And what's nice is this grounding cord that you just created, this tree trunk, is helping you release and self-heal anything that no longer serves you. There you go. And then we have to fill in empty spaces. So as you're releasing, the universe likes to fill in empty spaces. So it can fill in empty spaces with the energy that you had there before, or we can choose the energy of a higher vibration, our next highest vibration. So as we're releasing this energy and you're getting more and more space for you, go ahead and just imagine above your head a gold magnet. And gold is the highest vibration that we can have in the body, stay in the body with. So this magnet is actually going to start to form into a big gold sun by you calling back your energy. So just imagine that your energy is coming back from your bathroom and attracting to this magnet and forming into a big gold sun, coming back from the last 5 people you talked to, from the future, any future events, if you're not feeling like you're not in present time, and any energy from this and any other lifetime, and any energy from projects or problems that you're trying to think about, your bed. And once it's all filled in, you can go ahead and just ask the bubble to pop, or this gold sun to pop, and send it all the way into your body, filling up your toes, your knees, your thighs, your beautiful face, your hands, all your extremities, and any excess will be taken down with your grounding. When you're all filled in, you can gently open your eyes and stretch.
Thank you.
Me in that.
Thank you. Oh yeah, definitely. Yes, because before we started, like I was telling you, before we started recording, I was doing the reading of these 3 questions, and I was like, what is this feeling? I was like, oh gosh, so much anxiety coming up, from these questions, of course. So thank you for that. It was really beautiful.
I'm so glad that that resonated, and that's literally what you have to do. You can do that wherever you are. You can change your grounding cord, you can ground in the car, you can just visualize it even with your eyes open, and it's going to start to clean up your vibration, and that's what's going to heal our world. So take 5 minutes, do that every day, and trust me, you'll feel it shift.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I definitely felt it shift for me, for sure. So then the answer that I got, so I opened Ancient Mother's Akashic record, and Ancient Mother is the soul of the earth. Says you can, I was like, what? So it said, you can send Putin love because he doesn't have any love except for power over people. He's a person that deserves compassion too. Send a bubble of love. It's interesting bubble, say how it all ties in. Send a bubble of love to Ukraine, to Ukraine people and Russians, for they are suffering the most. The people that you can't stand, those in power, Biden, etc., send them love. And so that was the answer to that question. So then the next question is the big one, because it's kind of on everyone's mind, is will the U.S. and China go to war? What are you getting?
Yeah. So when I looked into that energy, so it doesn't look like physical war, like actual physical sending things across. It does look like a little bit of like emotional war, if that's the best way to describe it. It's like there will be manipulation within media and what we're hearing, what we're seeing, but that's the war, that's the manipulation, and it's going to get really confusing, really frustrating, and really scary for some people. But know that it's all going to be like, it feels like these tactics that are happening in order to influence the other to crack, more than it actually being like a physical war. So know that your bodies are safe, but also take care of the mind. And you can ground by doing that and bring back your energy, but you can also just know that it's not necessarily something that is actually going to be impending doom on us.
I'm smiling.
I'm so interested in your answer.
I'm smiling because I'm like, I just, I love that we're doing this.
Me too.
So I'm gonna read the answer. It's gonna sound very similar. So, will the US and China go to war? Not in the way that you think. It's an economic war of money. China and the US are dependent on each other. China's biggest clients are American companies. Things will get more expensive due to sanctions and higher tariffs that each country will impose on one another. The US doesn't want to let go of its economic power, and China wants that power. It will be a power struggle with the yuan. I'm not sure if the yuan, their currency,
right,
and the US dollar. It will be just as strong. So they were inferring that the yuan, I didn't write that, but that's what Ancient Mother meant, was the yuan will just be as strong as the US dollar. And so the visual I was getting is like the British pound was always a little bit more than the US dollar. Like what's the EU currency called?
Euros.
Euro, thank you. Like the euros was always like $1.25 more, or sometimes double than the dollar. So that's the yuan will gain in strength. No bombs dropping on the US, more cyber warfare, emotional warfare. I was just like, interesting. So I was immediately thinking of TikTok, of course. Media wants to scare you to vote a certain way, to keep investing and spend your money. So that's what I got for that.
Absolutely.
So I was just
I
like,
love that.
I was like, of course because we're tapping into the same sort. Yeah, basically. Yeah. So yeah.
But how cool, like that, all the healers are validating each other and the world, because we're okay, you guys. We're okay as long as we maintain this.
Right, yeah. Right. Unless you're in a war zone, then you need to get to safety. But yeah, it's yeah, so you can see why that was so anxiety inducing to like go answer these questions. And then so thank you again, Ishita, for that, for the meditation. So then the third question is, and I was asking this for my girlfriends because they were watching this YouTuber discuss that. When I watch the news and see and hear events that are terrible, what can I do to process the information and not feel doom and gloom?
Okay. Well, this is I feel like I want to give a specific question, and then a specific answer to your friends or whoever asked this question, but also a collective one. And so what I have to say, the specific answer, the news, especially now, may not be for you right now. Please don't tune in. And I say this from like the bottom of my heart with great love. It's though we want to stay informed about what's happening, which is great, but sometimes it is not necessarily adding to making us feel good. So it looks like there's something like, we attract what we are, where our vibrational frequency is. So looks like there's a lot that you're already dealing with on your plate, and other people too. So it almost feels like it's like there's a lot that's going on energetically outside of the news, and then when you're tuning into the news, it's just amplifying it. So it's okay to give yourself a break from the news for now. But for the collective, we can also remember that what we tune into, again, like, is a reflection of us. What we're deciding to make a choice into is a reflection of where we're at. So um knowing your limits about the news and how you receive news, or where you're receiving it from, is going to be really important, especially now with what's happening in our world. But staying away from giving yourself a space of um that's not uh that's not about the world crises, and remembering, I mean, gratitude is like the biggest thing, right? But that's easy to say when we're not watching the news,
Right.
when um all of that. But stepping into a space where you might choose to um fuel a space of acceptance and joy, basically. So I guess the collective message is also, hey, like, limit yourself on the news too, because you know that you have your own truth in here too. So what can't take away your power is your own intuition.
Mm-hmm.
um so they might be telling you things in order to press those triggers, um but know that you also have your own triggers that you can maintain too. So
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of what I was getting on that one.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Did
Awesome.
you have an answer for that?
Yes.
I can't wait to hear. I'm so excited.
So similar. I love it. I'm like, I'll just state it again.
Yeah.
So this is from Ancient Mother. When I watch the news and see, and I'm not saying like I'm just speaking for generally people, because we all get that from, when I watch the news and see and hear events that are terrible, what can I do to process the information and not feel doom and gloom? So Ancient Mother responded, first of all, you can't ignore your feelings. So if you feel doom and gloom, then feel it, breathe it, and release those feelings. Sit on the earth, walk barefoot on the ground, look up at the sky. World events are out of your control. You can only control your reaction. How can you interact when you see something shocking and keep yourself abreast of the events in your world? By being grounded and start to list things you're grateful for. So I was just like, oh my God. So you can't bury your feelings for too long, and you can't avoid them or hold on to them. State the emotions, notice how you feel. The only way to not feel it is to feel it and release it. Send that energy into the earth. Send it to source. Take a salt bath or get to the ocean to cleanse your aura and calm your mind. Move your body, exercise, walk, dance, etc. Cry, scream, laugh. It's all a way to release it. It's okay to feel what you're feeling, just don't hold on to it, and take a break from the news and allot yourself a limit on how much news you take in. And that, so yeah.
Wow. What magic.
I know, right? I love
Aww.
it.
My favorite. This is I truly do love that we're doing this. This is
Yes. I'm so, and it was so funny because when I proposed this idea to you, and I was like, yeah, if you think of any questions, and I was like, oh my God, it's tomorrow. Like, and it was just perfect. I was like, oh, okay, it's these questions. So I sent them to you last night. I'm like, hey, here's 2 questions. And I sent the other one earlier today. So yeah, it was totally spur of the moment. I didn't know. And I was like, oh, is this kind of too heavy I was like, no, let's figure this out, because I think well, obviously it's topical and it's on everyone's mind. If you haven't heard or seen what's going on between Russia and China, and what, between the US and Ukraine, and Europe and Ukraine and the Ukraine, it's a lot of heavy shit.
It's really heavy. It's super heavy.
And I feel for everyone and that's involved, directly involved, for people in Russia who a lot of them don't support it, and the Ukrainians who have had to flee, and the people who stayed behind that are suffering, and the people that have, everyone that's lost their lives on every side. And it's just, just thinking about like how, like, as soon as each country started lifting their stay-at-home orders, what did Israel do? Boom, Palestine. Putin was like, let's go into Ukraine. I'm just like, it was kind of peaceful during that time, like
Super peaceful. Yeah. Yeah. There was a lot of ability to have space to shift because of that.
Not everybody shifted. And so we have to shift it together. Yeah.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
That's intuitive tools are gonna, I strongly believe that intuitive tools, crystals, all of that breath work, all gonna help.
Yeah, no, it absolutely does. Yeah. I mean, why would crystals be? They're part of the earth. So anyway, okay. So it's just, it was fun, but it was also, a heavy topic. So
I appreciate you bringing these up, and I really feel like it was an honor to be able to talk about that. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you for being willing to do that, to do a reading. So and for your insights. And I was just thinking like, oh my God, I was just listening to you and I was like so grateful that you didn't shut down and that you had the people in your life to encourage you, and you kept going, and despite the challenges that you face. So yay.
Thank you. I think we all can do it though. Like,
yes,
I'm just an example of like what other people can be doing.
exactly. Exactly. So I want to, before we wrap it up, do you have upcoming events that you want to mention?
Yes. So one really big one that I'm super, super excited about is a retreat that I'm leading in Greece this summer in July. So this is a retreat only for women. We are actually going to Delphi, which is, if you don't know what that is, in Greece, there was well, way back in the day, there were these women who were oracles who would receive messages from the god Apollo or just divine messages in general. And they would deliver these messages to people who would come to them. So from other countries like Spain or like Turkey, anywhere like that. And then also for the Greeks who were there on love, business, money, anything. And so basically, we are going to be able to do a lot of energy work to heal our past lives, to see if we've had past lives in Greece. And spoiler alert, if Greece or any place has called to you and you've traveled there, you as a spirit are collecting up your energy from those lifetimes, because you don't travel anywhere for no reason. You actually were there. So a part of you needed to go back for the things that you need to do in this lifetime to reset and integrate that energy within you and your DNA energetically. So if you feel a call to Greece, this is like definitely the time to come. And we're going to do some deep work around our divine feminine. We're actually going to be able to go to the site after learning how to read energy and experience the energy. And we will tap into a higher level of initiation around clairvoyance. And this is for anyone who is like even a beginner. So the retreat is centered around super transformative things. So transforming your divine feminine energy, transforming the energy from your past lives and bringing back that integration, and transforming your way of traveling, because you can do what we're going to do on this trip in Greece, in Australia, wherever you travel. So it's going to be really transformative. Another thing about this trip is that so the year of this year, 2023, numerologically adds up to the year or the number 7, and which is the year of the mystic, intuition, spirituality, deep reflection. So we're going, in order to encode this retreat with the most transformation, we're going in July, the 7th month. It starts on the 7th, and it's 7 days, 14 till the 14th. So you're like basically held by the universe to massively transform here.
Wow.
So amazing.
That does sound amazing.
Yeah. So if you're interested, please reach out to me on my email, which is Ishita at clairvoyanthealerishita.com, or you can DM me on Instagram. I'm very active there. Clairvoyant Healer Ishita is just my Instagram, but I'm also obviously always offering readings. I have a container in which people can learn how to tap into their intuition and use some of the tools that we did today in there. And it's a 6-month program. We do one-on-one stuff and manifest like crazy. So some people have manifested babies, some people have manifested really big businesses. So that's a really fun thing. And then if you just want to tune into some weekly or monthly workshops with me and learn some cool tools, come join us. They're usually once a month, and we talk about topics like past lives, fairies, the energy of money, relationships. We're doing one about DNA and health and weight and disease this month. So if that's something that's interesting to you, come join us. So
awesome.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Things, but
yeah, but the retreats
awesome.
I love, because that's how I always felt when I traveled. Like when I went to France for the first time and saw the Côte d'Azur, I was like, oh my God, I've been here before. Holy shit. So I'm just curious, like what made you choose Greece, and what drew you into the Oracle of Delphi?
Yeah, so well, I've always wanted it. The energy of Greece in general is like spectacular. It's healing. It's amazing. It's very validating to the divine feminine. And so I wanted a space where we could really initiate into a higher level of spirituality, because that's what we're calling for. And this year's actually 2023. Well, actually, the planetary shifts that are happening are for females to step into a higher vibration. And specifically, it's like focused on like middle-aged females. But I mean, anyone who's going into this space is like gonna get there, as like, you're gonna eventually become a middle-aged woman,
right.
In this or any other lifetime. So basically we're highlighting that wise woman archetype this year. Like, that's the space for it. So just looking at the year numerologically, and then just knowing the energy of Greece, it's like, well, there's no question, like we have to go to Greece. So
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah, I love that. I was just wondering the inspiration behind that, because there's so many oracles and I'm just like, what about that so have you been there before, to the Oracle at Delphi?
Yeah, it's gorgeous.
Wow. That's so cool. Well, thank you so much. So all of this will be in the show notes. How to contact Ishita, and how you spell it, how you spell her name, Ishit, as in Tom, A. And so like she said, she's at Clairvoyant Healer Ishita. She's on Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook. And her website is clairvoyanthealerishita.com. And you can find her podcast on Spotify called Soul Healer Podcast. So those are the ways to contact her if you're interested in her retreat, in her 6-month program, and her monthly gatherings. Is that what you would call it? Monthly
workshops.
Monthly workshops all online, right?
Yes.
And everything will be in the show notes, how to contact her, how to spell her name. So look for that. So we will close today. God, thank you so much for, you have such a great energy. Just such a sprite, I love it. Just so shiny and bright. So thank you so much for taking the time today, for being here.
Thank you. It was such an honor. I'm so excited to be able to be a part of this space that you hold for so many people who need it. So,
oh, thank you. Thank you. And thank you for joining us today. Please listen and follow on YouTube, The Confident Healer. My name is Sharmila Mali. This is the Confident Healer podcast. And we will see you next time.